Blocked Regina and her mini-comedian from our wedding to avoid drama. Now she's calling us bullies every hour. I'm 26, and my fiancé Jay is 28. We're getting married on November 30th, and I want everything to go smoothly, though Jay's sisters, Mary, 25, and Regina, 35, seem determined to complicate things. Both sisters are married and have daughters. About 4 months ago, Mary approached us with the sweetest idea. Her daughter Katie, who's only 5, wanted to sing for us at the wedding. She'd even gone to her music teacher for help with a song so she could put on a special performance. I adore Katie, she's sweet and thoughtful, and, of course, Jay and I were delighted with the idea. We happily gave Mary our blessing. Katie singing at our wedding was now something I was genuinely looking forward to. But word got out about Katie's upcoming performance, and that's when Regina decided it was time for her daughter, Emma, to shine, too. Emma is 10, and while I do care about her, I have to admit she can be a handful. She has literally no filter, does whatever she wants, and unfortunately, Regina enables that at every turn. Emma has ADHD, so do I, so I get what that can mean, but Regina and Emma wield that diagnosis like a shield for any kind of bad behavior. Just the other day, Emma was climbing all over the furniture while we were watching TV. When I calmly asked her to stop, she shrieked in my face, "I have ADHD, you can't tell me what to do." Regina only watched and shrugged, as if this was perfectly acceptable. So, imagine my apprehension when Regina announces, without asking us first, that Emma would now be performing a stand-up comedy act at our wedding. Jay and I were immediately wary. We asked Regina what kind of show Emma was planning, but all Regina would say was that it was a surprise and that we'd love it. This conversation happened on Monday. Then, last night, things took a turn. Mary sent Jay a video Regina had shared with her, saying, "Little preview of the act." I watched in growing horror as Emma practiced her comedy routine. The material was wildly inappropriate, not just for a wedding, but for a 10-year-old to say in any setting. The video ended with Emma gleefully blurting, "Congrats, Elle and Mouse." Backstory: Jay and I go way back, we've known each other since kindergarten. Through all our years as friends, I was always bigger than him. By high school, I had been 5 feet 5 inches since 8th grade, and definitely weighed more than 100 pounds. Jay, on the other hand, was a late bloomer, still just 5 feet 0 inches and barely 100 pounds by senior year. When I started dating him and came to his family's house for dinner as his girlfriend, Regina had greeted us by saying, "Wow, I can't believe the elephant and the mouse finally got together." Then she explained, while laughing, that Jay used to come home from school saying he'd marry me one day, and after seeing me at an event she thought it was funny to picture a little mouse like her brother with an elephant of a girl like me. The rest of Jay's family had made it clear this wasn't okay, and Regina dropped it. Until now. Watching Emma end her act with Elle and Mouse made both Jay and me freeze. It was painfully obvious to us that this wasn't Emma's comedy, it was Regina's, and Regina was using her daughter to make some cruel jokes at our expense on our wedding day. Now, Jay and I are torn. Neither of us wants this so-called comedy act to happen at our wedding, especially if it's going to drag up the elephant and mouse joke and who knows what else. But we're dreading the blowback. If we say no to Emma, will we become the bad guys for letting our other niece perform but not hers? We finally texted Regina to tell her that we'd prefer not to have Emma do her skit. Since then, Regina has been bombarding us with texts, accusing us of ruining Emma's life and being unfair bullies by letting one niece perform while banning the other. All I want is a happy day, free of Regina's drama, but she seems determined to paint us as villains at our own wedding. I feel completely stuck. Update 1. When all the craziness first started, I was truly overwhelmed. The amount of advice and support that poured in from people took me by surprise. Jay and I both appreciated it beyond words. I never expected our ordeal to draw any attention, let alone empathy from so many, so thank you for caring. A few things needed clarifying before I could even move on to the update. First, regarding Jay, some people assumed this was solely his mess to clean up since it's his sister at the center of things. What I want everyone to understand is that, from the very first moment, Jay was ready to go nuclear. He was actually drafting emails, ready to lay it all out, calling Regina out point blank and informing the rest of his family what had really happened, making it clear she would not be invited. Strangely enough, I was the one who wanted to wait, take a breath, and make sure we covered every what if. Believe me, Jay was just as, if not more, furious than I was. He was completely on board with seeking outside advice, and I needed everyone to know he was an equal force behind every decision we made. Then there's Mary. Someone wondered if Mary had something to do with all this. Did she send the infamous video just to stir things up? Absolutely not. She sent the video to us and called right after, letting us know what was happening and insisting on standing up for me right from the beginning. She was, in fact, the one who directly confronted Regina, telling her point blank that any little manipulative game she tried wouldn't work anymore, and that she'd make it very public if Regina didn't behave. Mary gave us her full blessing to tell Regina exactly who forwarded that video. I also heard the many voices reminding me of what should have been obvious. It's my wedding, and I don't have to let anyone perform if I don't want them to, especially not in the face of all this drama. That decision was easy, Emma would not be performing. But after years of knowing Regina, I knew she wasn't the type to simply let something go. She would try, one way or another, To turn the spotlight back on herself or knock me down. I came here partly because I was dreading the idea of spending my own wedding constantly watching my back, waiting for whatever stunt she'd try next. Hearing your support, that it was okay to feel this way, that it didn't make me the bad guy, made all the difference. So, 2 days after we'd had enough, Jay and I called Regina. For my own protection, I used my phone to record the conversation. Honestly, I don't even know if that's legal, but I needed proof. Jay insisted on taking the lead so Regina couldn't pin the blame on me and pretend he was uninvolved. Here's, more or less, how the conversation went. Jay started, "Regina, we've decided Emma will not be performing at our wedding." Immediately, Regina shot back with, "No, Katie's performing, so that's not fair." Jay, keeping cool, explained, "Katie's singing a 45-second song that means something to both of us. Emma performing stand-up just isn't appropriate. She can perform at family dinner the night before, or privately for us, but not at the reception." Regina doubled down. "No. She wants to perform in front of people. If Katie can, so can Emma." So Jay countered, "Okay, then Katie will sing for just us, too. So it's fair." Regina went silent for a moment, then said, "Well, she still wants to perform in front of people." At this point, Jay had clearly had enough. "It's not her day. You do realize no one performs stand-up at a wedding, right? She's 10. She'll get over it." Regina's voice rose, "How dare you?" That's when I stepped in. "Regina, you haven't even told us what Emma was planning to say. You said it was a surprise, but Mary told us what Katie would do ahead of time, which is why we agreed. I think we have a right to know." Jay shot me a grin and gave me an actual fist bump at this point. Regina just insisted again, "It's a surprise. It's funny. It's harmless." Jay was having none of it. "This is our wedding. Emma's not getting a microphone just for you to laugh at my wife's expense." Regina feigned innocence. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Jay's voice went cold. "You do, and it's childish to pretend you don't. Emma isn't your vessel to make mean-spirited jokes. If you try anything, you'll both be removed from the wedding." Her excuse was desperate. "She's 10. She has a medical condition. You're being a bridezilla." Jay spoke up firmly, "I'm the one speaking. This is a mutual decision. Emma is old enough to know when something is mean. You're old enough to know you shouldn't live vicariously through your daughter's childish behavior. I need to hear you say Emma won't perform, and if something happens, you leave." There was a long, heavy silence. Finally, Regina muttered, "Fine." Once we had it, we ended the call, making sure the whole exchange was on record. We haven't spoken to her since. A little later, Mary sent us a screenshot. Regina was exploding at her, calling her every name in the book for ratting her out and ruining her day. Mary didn't bother to respond, but she saved the messages, just in case. We called Jay's parents and my family to let them know everything that was going on. Jay's parents were horrified. They promised that if Regina tried to spin the family against us, they'd tell the truth. My family was just as supportive. One thing I forgot to mention before, our DJ, yes, that's his name, believe it or not, is one of Jay's friends from college. Jay called him after our confrontation with Regina, filled him in, and told him to keep the mic locked up, no chance for anyone to grab it for rogue speeches or surprise acts. DJ promised he'd keep the attention on us the whole night. Things smoothed out. At least, I thought they had, until last night. That was when I got a text from Emma, sent from her iPad. Just a single elephant emoji. I'll admit it, I cried. Update 2. I am married, y'all. Everything was perfect. I am officially stuck with my best friend and I couldn't be happier. We decided to break from some traditional wedding customs because we wanted certain moments to be just ours. Instead of a first look, we spent the morning together, getting ready side by side, which felt absolutely right. We even slipped away from the commotion and read our vows to each other, alone, strolling the vineyard paths, a dream I'd always cherished. Let me tell you how everything unfolded. All the advice and encouragement gave Jay and me the final push to make this day exactly what we wanted. The first hurdle, sitting down with our immediate family and letting them know Regina and Emma would not be joining us. They were a bit upset at Regina for acting out and, in a way, punishing herself, even if she didn't see it that way. But they completely understood our position, and my tiny 5 feet 2 inches mom even joked about being our wedding bouncer. To avoid any drama or misinformation, we decided to get ahead of Regina's narrative and let our guests and extended family know before she did. So, we sent out a big group email. Here's the heart of what we told everyone. Hello friends and family, we are so excited to be celebrating with you all on our special day. We cannot wait to see you all and have you share this time with us. We have a small announcement that we ask you all to read and respect. Over this past week, we have decided not to invite Jay's sister and niece, Regina and Emma. Though this decision will cause some different reactions to many, we have decided to put our day and ourselves as priority. Over the years, Regina has made rude comments towards me that we have normally taken the higher road and brushed off. However, it has come to our attention that both Regina and Emma have tasked themselves with bringing these comments to the wedding in front of everyone. Having everyone's attention be taken by bullying on our day is something we will not have. Though some of you may not agree, we ask you all to respect our decision. Both are old enough to know right from wrong, mean from nice. If this is something you do not agree with, that's fine. It is our day, we will not be changing our minds. We cannot wait to see you all so very soon. Surprisingly, the response was overwhelmingly positive. About 95% of our guests wholeheartedly supported us, and many, from Jay's side, sent me private messages apologizing for Regina's behavior, promising us their full support and presence. Of course, a handful were upset. I suspect Regina had already spun her version of events, about Emma's ADHD, being bullied, or that Jay's brother-in-law didn't care for his family. As the criticism came in, we simply responded that everyone is entitled to their opinion, but our decision stood. If they couldn't support us, they didn't have to come. The real surprise came from Regina's husband. Jay shared the email and the critical responses with him, and he was actually angry on our behalf. He even told us his work trip was only 10 minutes from the venue, and promised that if anything happened, he'd handle it. Next, we needed to tell Regina directly. We sent her this text: regarding our phone call and yours and your daughter's blatant disregard for our feelings, you and Emma will not be coming to our wedding. This decision was made because of your rude comments and pushing this bullying on your daughter. We will not have you both ruining our day. This is not up for discussion nor compromise. Regina read it, but didn't reply. To be sure, Emma received the message too. We texted her something similar, but more age appropriate. No response from her either. The night before our wedding, Jay and I, our parents and siblings, and my side of the family had an intimate dinner at the venue. That's the dinner where we'd offered Emma a chance to perform. Regina and her clan didn't show, and honestly, that was for the best. Surrounded by loved ones who had our backs, I felt all the stress melt away. And then came the big day. It was magical, better than I ever could have imagined. Having all our friends and family together, I even managed to get up and dance, and trust me, I'm not usually a dancer, but it was too much fun to pass up. Katie brought down the house singing in front of everyone. Jay and I both cried. For most of the night, Regina's name was barely mentioned, except for a few people quietly checking in to make sure I was okay. But then, just after dinner and before dessert, guess who showed up? Our videographer caught sight of them approaching and gave me a heads up. My stomach dropped. I thought for a second my day would be ruined. But then I realized, this was my day. Surrounded by our amazing people, our family, friends, the DJ and staff, I felt secure. If Regina tried to make a scene, the only person she'd embarrass would be herself. I suddenly knew I didn't care what happened. No one would ruin this for us. Honestly, that made me feel kind of badass. And yes, we had a bouncer, my family friend, this gentle giant at 6 feet 5 inches and over 300 pounds, who looks intimidating but is such a teddy bear. He stopped Regina and Emma at the edge and told them to leave. Regina raised her voice, insisting, "No, I was invited, my daughter is performing, we scheduled a performance, all lies." My friend didn't move an inch. Then the spectacle began, shouting, attempts to grab decorations, stomping, all of it. Except, nobody paid them any attention. Literally, our guests didn't even look their way. Thank you to everyone who recommended the group email. They even tried singing along loudly with the DJ's playlist, but every time they did, our DJ would seamlessly switch songs so they couldn't keep up. After a while, Regina and Emma started yelling things like, "Happy wedding day." And I have a speech. We have an announcement. Since the venue was outdoors, they lurked just outside the gated area, but still within earshot. Still, nobody gave them the satisfaction of reacting. Everyone ignored them, and I could see it was starting to wear on them. And while this was going on, Mary called Regina's, my husband showed up, and I could instantly see that this was a side of him I had never witnessed before. It was as if something in him had finally snapped. He walked straight up to Regina, without hesitation, and said, with a quiet authority, "We're leaving. Now." I watched as he handed Mary a card, one he'd apparently prepared ahead of time, meaning every move he made was deliberate and clear. He didn't give Regina any chances to argue or create more drama, he simply and very directly guided them both out to his car. At that moment, it finally seemed to sink into Regina that the spotlight she had so desperately craved wasn't coming her way. Her face clouded over with disappointment and, with an indignant huff, she left the event. And that was it. I know some would hope for a grand, over-the-top confrontation, but really, in the end, Regina dug her own grave without anyone else lifting a finger. The sense of relief and gratitude I felt toward our family and friends was overwhelming. After she was gone, no one even mentioned what had happened. It was as if she'd never been there at all. The night transformed into something beautiful again, everything flowing seamlessly, and I could not have asked for a better ending. Right now, I'm writing this while on our honeymoon in Greece. We're still floating from the happiness of our wedding day. Yesterday, Jay's mom called just to check in. She told us that nearly all of the extended family and friends have basically blocked Regina out of their lives. Since the wedding, no one has really heard from her. His mom suspects that Regina is keeping quiet so she can lick her wounds in private. She also told us that if anything else happens, she won't let us know until we're back home so we can savor every moment of our trip without any more unnecessary drama. Update 3. Well, Greece was absolutely magical, but coming home has been complicated. Jay and I got back 3 days ago, and I honestly thought the Regina drama was behind us. I was so wrong. The first red flag was when we pulled into our driveway and saw our neighbor Mrs. Patterson waiting on her porch like she'd been watching for us. She rushed over before we could even get our luggage out, practically vibrating with urgency. "Oh honey, I'm so glad you're back," she said, wringing her hands. "I didn't want to ruin your honeymoon, but I've been keeping an eye on things like you asked, and, well, there's been some activity." My stomach dropped. "What kind of activity?" "Regina's been here. Multiple times. She had a key." Jay and I just stared at each other. "We definitely never gave Regina a key to our house." Mrs. Patterson continued, "The first time was about 5 days ago. She was here for maybe an hour with Emma. Then she came back alone 2 days later, stayed much longer. I almost called the police, but I wasn't sure." We thanked Mrs. Patterson and rushed inside. At first glance, everything looked normal. But as we started unpacking and settling back in, little things felt off. The mail was stacked differently than how Jay typically organizes it. A few items in our bedroom seemed slightly moved. The spare key we keep in a lockbox by the back door was missing entirely. Then I went to check my jewelry box, and my heart stopped. My grandmother's antique pearl earrings, the ones I wore as my something old at the wedding, were gone. Jay was furious. We immediately called the police to report the break-in and theft. When the officer arrived, he asked if we had any idea who might have done this. We explained about Regina and the wedding situation. "Do you have any proof she was here?" he asked. That's when Mrs. Patterson became our hero. She'd actually taken photos of Regina's car in our driveway with timestamps. The officer took our report seriously and said they'd follow up. But here's where it gets really twisted. Later that evening, Mary called Jay, crying. "I need to tell you both something," she sobbed. "Regina came to my house yesterday, completely hysterical. She said she'd made a huge mistake and begged me to help her fix it." Apparently, Regina had confessed to Mary that she'd been going to our house while we were away, but her story was that she was trying to leave us a peace offering, some expensive wine and a handwritten apology letter. She claimed she'd used a spare key that Jay had supposedly given her ages ago, which is absolutely not true. But then she started crying harder, Mary continued, and admitted that while she was there, Emma had wandered around and might have taken something as a souvenir. Regina said she tried to stop her, but Emma threw a tantrum and Regina didn't want to make it worse. I was seeing red. "So she's saying a 10-year-old just randomly decided to steal my grandmother's earrings?" "There's more," Mary said quietly. "Regina begged me to help her figure out how to return the earrings without getting in trouble. She said she couldn't afford a criminal record because it would affect her job, and that Emma didn't understand she was stealing." Jay took the phone. "Mary, where are the earrings now?" "I don't know. Regina said Emma hid them somewhere and won't tell her where. She's supposedly trying to get Emma to confess." The whole thing felt like more manipulation. Regina getting caught, then crafting this elaborate story about Emma being the real culprit to avoid responsibility. But the next morning, things took another turn. Emma's dad, Regina's husband, showed up at our door looking exhausted and carrying a small jewelry box. "I'm so sorry," he said, handing it to me. "Your earrings are in there." I opened it, and there they were, safe and sound. I was so relieved I almost started crying. "I found them in Emma's backpack last night when I was helping her with homework," he explained. When I asked her about them, she broke down and told me everything. "Regina had told Emma that you and Jay were mean bullies who had stolen Emma's chance to perform. She said taking something of yours would teach you a lesson about how it feels to lose something important." My jaw dropped. Regina had literally coached her 10-year-old daughter to steal from us as revenge. "Emma's at home writing you both an apology letter," he continued. "She's also grounded for a month, and I've enrolled her in counseling. This isn't just about ADHD, this is about her mother teaching her that stealing and revenge are acceptable." Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I also need you to know that Regina has been telling people around town that you two abandoned Emma at the wedding after she had a medical episode related to her ADHD. She's been playing the victim, saying you're ableist bullies." Jay's face went white. "She's been lying about us publicly?" "For weeks. I only found out yesterday when my coworker mentioned he'd heard about the poor little girl with ADHD who got kicked out of her uncle's wedding. Regina's been spinning this story to anyone who'll listen." We thanked him for bringing the earrings back and for being honest with us. After he left, Jay and I sat in stunned silence. It's one thing to cause drama at our wedding, but actively slandering us in our community? Teaching her child to steal from us? That feels like a whole different level of malicious. The police called later that day to let us know that since the items were returned and it involved a minor, they weren't pressing charges. But they did officially document everything in case there are future incidents. Now Jay and I are trying to figure out what to do next. Do we just ignore Regina's lies and hope they die down? Do we actively try to correct the record? Part of me wants to go full scorched earth and show people the video of Emma's inappropriate comedy routine to prove what really happened. But another part of me just wants to move on with our lives. The hardest part is realizing that Regina isn't just dramatic or attention-seeking, she's actively malicious. She deliberately involved her daughter in stealing from us and is lying about us to damage our reputation. I never thought she'd escalate things this far after the wedding. Jay's parents are horrified and have completely cut Regina off. They're talking about getting a restraining order. But I'm worried this is just the beginning. If Regina is willing to coach her child to commit crimes against us, what else is she capable of? I thought getting married would be the end of our drama with Regina. Instead, it feels like it was just the opening act. Update 4. I thought things couldn't get worse after the break-in and theft situation, but Regina has officially lost her mind. What happened over the past 2 weeks has left Jay and me questioning everything we thought we knew about his family. It started when Jay's mom called us, sounding shaken. "I need to tell you something, but you're going to think I'm crazy," she said. Apparently, Regina had shown up at their house at 11 p.m. the night before, hysterical and claiming that Jay's dad had been secretly meeting with me for months before the wedding. "She had these printed photos," his mom continued, "of your dad's truck parked outside places around town, and she kept insisting it proved he was having an affair with you." Jay went completely silent. I felt sick. His dad works in construction and his truck is literally everywhere around town for job sites. But Regina had apparently been following him, taking pictures, and building this insane conspiracy theory. The worst part, his mom whispered, is that she brought Emma with her. That poor child was standing there at 11 p.m. listening to her mother accuse her grandfather of. I can't even say it. Jay's parents immediately kicked Regina out and told her never to contact them again. But the damage was done. Within 48 hours, Regina's affair accusations were spreading through Jay's extended family like wildfire. Then my world turned upside down when my own mother called me, crying. "Sweetheart, I got the strangest call from a woman claiming to be Jay's sister. She said she was worried about you and wanted to warn me about your marriage." My stomach dropped. "She told me that Jay has been violent with you, and that's why you look so thin and scared at the wedding." I was speechless. I've actually gained weight since getting married because Jay and I have been so happy, cooking together and enjoying life. But somehow Regina had twisted that into me being abused and afraid. She also said, my mom continued hesitantly, that you've been having panic attacks and that Jay controls your money and won't let you see friends. None of this was true, but I could hear the doubt creeping into my mom's voice. Regina was poisoning everyone against us with these elaborate lies. The breaking point came last Tuesday. Jay was at work when someone started pounding on our front door. I looked through the peephole and saw Emma standing there alone, soaking wet from the rain, holding a suitcase. I opened the door immediately. "Emma, what are you doing here? Where's your mom?" She was crying so hard she could barely speak, she said. "She said you and Uncle Jay would take care of me now because Daddy doesn't want me anymore." My heart shattered. This 10-year-old child had been dropped off at our house like an unwanted package. I brought her inside, got her dry clothes, and tried calling Regina. No answer. I called her husband. Straight to voicemail. That's when Emma broke down completely and told me everything. "Mommy's been sleeping in Grandpa Mike's shed for 3 days, she sobbed. Daddy found out about her detective work, that's what she called taking those pictures. He said she was stalking people and being crazy, and they had a big fight. Grandpa Mike is Regina's father-in-law, who apparently felt sorry for her and let her camp out in his backyard shed while she and her husband worked things out. But then Mommy showed Daddy the pictures of Grandpa Jay's truck, and Daddy got really mad. He said she was making up lies about good people and that she needed help." Emma wiped her nose on her sleeve. "She told me I had to choose between her and Daddy, and when I said I wanted to go home, she said fine, I could live with the people I loved more." I was horrified. Regina had essentially abandoned her daughter with us out of spite. I called Jay immediately, and he rushed home. We spent the evening trying to comfort Emma while frantically calling child services, Regina's husband, anyone who could help us figure out what to do legally. Regina's husband finally called us back around midnight, exhausted. "I've been looking for them everywhere. Regina took my car 3 days ago and I haven't seen either of them since. I filed a missing persons report this morning." When we told him Emma was with us, he broke down crying with relief. "Thank God she's safe." Regina texted me yesterday saying she was teaching Emma a lesson about loyalty but wouldn't tell me where they were. He drove over immediately to get Emma, and the reunion was heartbreaking. Emma ran to her dad sobbing apologies, while he just held her and kept saying, "This isn't your fault, baby. None of this is your fault." Before he left, he pulled Jay and me aside. "I'm filing for emergency custody and divorce papers tomorrow. I can't let Regina keep using Emma as a weapon against everyone she's angry with. This child has been through enough." But Regina wasn't done with us yet. 2 days later, Jay came home from work looking like he'd seen a ghost. "We need to talk," he said, sinking into our couch. Apparently, Regina had shown up at Jay's workplace that afternoon, demanding to speak with him. When security tried to escort her out, she started screaming that Jay had kidnapped her daughter and brainwashed her husband. "But that's not the worst part," Jay said quietly. "She told my boss that I've been embezzling money from the company to pay for our wedding, and that you've been helping me cover it up." I felt the blood drain from my face. Jay works in accounting for a small local business. An accusation like that could destroy his career, even if it's completely false. My boss knows it's ridiculous, but he has to investigate any allegations of financial misconduct. I'm suspended with pay pending a full audit of all my work. Jay put his head in his hands. What if she's somehow planted evidence? What if she's been planning this all along? The paranoia was setting in. Regina had already proven she was willing to break into our house and steal from us. What else was she capable of? That night, as we lay in bed trying to process everything, Jay suddenly sat up. "The spare key," he said. "Remember how the spare key to our house went missing while we were in Greece?" We both realized at the same time, Regina still had access to our house. She could come and go as she pleased, plant evidence, take more things, or worse. We changed all our locks the next morning and installed security cameras around the property. As the technician was finishing up, he mentioned something that made my blood run cold. "You know, it's weird, but I installed a system just like this one about 6 months ago for a lady who said her neighbor was harassing her. Turned out she was actually using the cameras to spy on the neighbor and gather evidence of things that weren't really happening." Jay and I looked at each other. "What was her name?" I asked. "Regina something. Nice lady, seemed really concerned about her safety." Regina had been planning this campaign against us for months, possibly since before our engagement. She'd been systematically building cases against everyone she felt had wronged her, taking photos, gathering evidence, and preparing to destroy our lives. But we still had no idea how far she was willing to go. That became clear yesterday when Jay's mom called us, sobbing hysterically. Regina had contacted the state licensing board for Jay's dad's construction business, claiming he'd been doing unpermitted work and taking payments under the table to fund our lavish wedding. Jay's dad, who built his business over 30 years with an impeccable reputation, now faced a full investigation that could shut down his company and ruin his retirement. "She's not going to stop," Jay said quietly after we hung up. "She's going to keep destroying everyone we care about until there's nothing left." I realized he was right. This wasn't just about wedding drama anymore. Regina was systematically trying to dismantle our entire life, piece by piece. Our marriage, our jobs, our families, our reputations, everything was under attack. And the scariest part? She was smart about it. Every accusation was just plausible enough that people had to take it seriously. Every lie was crafted to cause maximum damage while being nearly impossible to definitively disprove. As I write this, Jay is meeting with a lawyer to discuss our options for legal action against Regina. But I can't shake the feeling that we're playing defense in a game where she's always 3 moves ahead. The woman who once jokingly called me an elephant has turned into something far more dangerous, a predator, who won't stop until she's destroyed everything we've built together. I used to think our wedding day was the end of the Regina drama. Now I'm terrified it was just the beginning of something much, much worse.